Hello, my friends. This is Barack Lesnar of Barack Lesnar Hoops, bringing you an update today, November 18th, 2019. And here's what I'm going to do today. So, with it being a brand new week, I'm going to recap one of my accounts, including my Barack Lesnar Hoops League, seeing how the week went. I'm also going to show you a way that I check the strength of my team and the categories I'm doing really well in compared to the rest of the league. That allows me to take accounting of how my team is structured, and that way I can realize which categories I have a surplus in, which categories I want to be stronger in, and potential players that I can move around and tinker with to get those categories where I want them to be. And then towards the end of the video, I'm going to go over the transaction trends, so it'll all be in this video for today. With the weekend, the transaction trends I covered today should cover most of the weekend. So in my Barack Lesnar Hoops League, I was able to win the week 7-2, and it was a tough week. I ended up making a trade. I got rid of Lou Williams and Harrison Barnes, and I got Anunoby and Daniel House Jr. back in that trade. It was a tough week because there were injuries I had to deal with. So Anunoby was coming back after that trade, and he didn't have a strong game. Then there was Jonathan Isaac, who went down with an injury and missed the last two games with an ankle injury. Then I had Daniel House Jr. himself, who I traded for and had to throw in the IR. Larry Nance is dealing with a thumb injury. And on this team, I have John Collins. So that's a lot of dead weight I had to carry this week. But I was able to have a strong week overall. I won the percentages. I won in steals, so I won out of steals and blocks, and I won in turnovers, which is why I always advocate be strong in turnovers. Because even if I would have lost points, which was pretty close, I would have been good just because I had low turnovers. I lost assists significantly, but I won turnovers significantly, which is why when we were doing draft videos, I advocated so strongly for that strategy. Now, here's what I want to do. We're gonna go to team stats. So here's what you do. You go to team stats, you go to totals, and it'll show you where you're at for each category. So for this league specifically, I'm more middle of the pack as far as my field goal percentage so far this season. My free throw percentage is elite. Only one team has a better free throw percentage. 3-pointers made, I'm right there in the vicinity with 4 teams total. So we have some pretty good 3-point shooting teams. We're all within 10. As far as points, I'm second in the league in points. Rebounding is not a strong category for me, but even then, I'm still middle of the league in that one. Assists is a category I'm pretty much punching in this one, as I just showed you. For the last week, because I want to be strong in turnovers, so I sacrifice my assist. Steals, I'm not as good at steals as I want to be, but then again, there's only about 26 separating me from first place. So all the teams are relatively close when it comes to steals, and trading for Anunoby should really help me there. With blocks, I am number 1 in the league, which fits in with my strategy perfectly. And as far as turnovers, despite my strength in points and 3-pointers and other categories, my turnovers are really low. So my assist, I'm middle of the pack, as you can see here. But as far as my turnovers, I'm pretty much in the top half of the league. So that makes me really hard to beat on any given week. So based on seeing these numbers, I already know rebounding. If I were to focus on an area, I know, well, rebounding isn't a strong area for me. Uh, Field goal percentage, it's probably lower so far cumulative than I want it to be. So then I keep that in mind. All right, mental note for that. My free throw is pretty good. My 3-pointers are pretty good. My points are pretty good. So I'm good as far as scoring. And like I said, a lot of this production is when I still had Lou Williams, so I sacrificed some scoring to get up in the steals. Assist, I think that's still a category that I'm going to punt. So I know I'm good where I'm at. I don't need to focus on assists. But if I want to get my steals up, then I want to target guys that get steals. And I also want to still protect my turnovers, so I don't want to trade for anyone that's going to really hurt my turnovers. All right, so this is a 16-team league that I'm in, and I was able to win last week 6-3. This is a money league. That's why I have the dollar sign right there by my name. I did go ahead and pick up Carmelo Anthony. I was able to put Josh Hart in IR, so I have Carmelo Anthony. Let's see how he does. But like I said, in a deeper format, I think it makes a little more sense to see what he can do. And Josh Hart is in the IR. If Carmelo sucks, he's going right back on the waiver wire. But in this league, it's a weekly format, which I'm not a fan of. But let's go look at the team stats. You can also look at the win-loss total. This is a different way of seeing how you're competing with everyone else. So 3-1, 3-1, 3-1, 3-0. I already know that I'm doing very well in those categories without having to look at the totals, but I really feel the totals gives you a more holistic view. So 456 for my league in this one, which is similar to what it was in that Barack Lesnar Hoops league. For my free throw percentage, I'm in higher than middle of the pack. I'm in the top half for sure. But these guys are really high as far as their free throw percentage. 3-pointers made, I'm still in the top half in this league. Points, I'm high up there as well. For rebounding, you see I'm still within the top 5. Assists, I'm still in the top half of the league. Steals, I'm the very best. Blocks, I'm at number 2. And my turnovers, I'm in the top half of the league as well. So there wasn't a single category in this league which I wasn't in the top half of the league in. So with it being a deeper format, I was able to do a more balanced approach. I'd say if I have a tank category in this one, it would be field goal percentage. That's the only category in which I'm bottom half of the league in. Other than that, I was in the top half or higher. So here, this is top 6, and it's a 16-team league. 3-pointers made, I'm in the top 7, so that's still in the top half. So I know field goal percentage and 3-pointers made are my weaker categories. Rebounds, assists, steals, and blocks, I was doing pretty well in. So with 16 teams, you may look and say, well, you were only in the top 2 in like 2 categories. But being in the top half, if you see here, not everyone else is in the top half in every category. So that's what makes you hard to beat on any given week. Just being able to beat you in 5 specific categories, because even if they're able to best you in a few of them, your team is so well balanced that if theirs isn't built and optimized correctly, you're going to beat them in more categories than they can beat you. And I'll show you proof of that with 2 leagues that I ended up tying in. So here's a league I'm in for a large Facebook group, large basketball group. And we ended up tied in this one, and I had more games than they did, but I was carrying a lot of dead weight. I had both DeAndre Ayton, I have John Collins, so I had both of them in this league, and I'm carrying that dead weight. Jeff Teague, didn't get any games out of him. Kyle Lowry, I lost him to injury, so I had him in IR. And despite all of those things happening this season, despite all of that, like I ended up tied and I could have won the week. And why was that? I had low turnovers here again. I lost assists, but look at my turnovers compared to their turnovers. I was able to win in points in this one, 1 in 3-pointers, and 1 in field goal percentage. I could have won the week, but despite having all those weaknesses there, even without two of my heavy hitter centers, I still did really well in rebounding. Now, it doesn't look like this guy has been too active either, so I have to take that into consideration. So had his guys been fully active, I may have been in more trouble. I'm not sure why this guy's not using his IR, but that's neither here nor there. But let's go ahead and look at the team stats for this specific league. So in this one, again, the field goal percentage very similar to the league that we just saw. All right, so here are the stats, and for field goal percentage, like I said before, very similar to the previous team. Free throw percentage, I think almost identical to the previous team I just showed you at that .798. So you could see that it's probably a very similar build to what I just had. Down to having John Collins. 3-pointers made, I'm in the top 3. So again, that's with DeAndre Ayton and John Collins missing all the time they're missing and no IR. So I can keep that in mind. Both of those guys are 18 point per game scorers. So when I see, all right, well, my points aren't so high, I already know in my head that I can calculate that they're going to be returning from those suspensions after 25 games are up, and they're going to help me with my scoring just without me changing anything. They're already in active slots. They're just not producing anything. So the moment they're playing again, those zeros becomes 18 points per game for two different players. So that's 36 points per game that I can count on. So I know I'm good there. Same deal with rebounding. They're both two of my better rebounders, and they're both down right now. And I'm not able to replace them with rebounders because there's no IR slot. Assists. Now, assist is one I'm not too far off. I could be stronger in it if I wanted to. I know I got Kyle Lowry coming back. I have him down. Jeff Teague's missed some time. When they're both healthy, my assist would probably be closer to the top. So I think that's a category I'm actually decent in as well. Steals, I'm in the top 3. Here, blocks is a weaker category for me, but same deal. John Collins, DeAndre Ayton are two guys that are going to give me blocks. So once they're back, I'll be closer to the top of the league in blocks. With turnovers, it's the opposite. So my turnovers are low right now, but I have to account for the fact that DeAndre Ayton and John Collins will lead me to have more turnovers naturally. But even with their turnovers, I'm still in pretty good shape, especially compared to some of the other top teams here, where are some of the other top teams in the league, like Jose's team, Troy's terrific team, on the Deep Throat. They're much higher at turnovers than I am right now. So I wanted to show you that team, and I'll probably give you weekly updates on all 3 of these teams and some of my other ones to show you how I'm putting together these builds to help me navigate through troubled waters. I got to deal with problems just like you got to deal with them, and I'm showing you you're able to deal with them. There's going to be weeks where you lose, but you shouldn't be getting crushed for the most part. There's going to be weeks where you have a bunch of injuries, and on top of that, the schedule's just not in your favor. You have to keep in mind that if you're going through a stretch now where the games are light, there'll be a straight stretch later on where your guys are playing like 4 games every single week all together, and then you'll be really hard to beat, especially if you have guys that are producing for you. All right, so let's go ahead and discuss the waiver wire trends for today so that we can get this wrapped up. All right, so the waiver wire trends for today, Frank Kaminsky, he's being picked up a whole lot. He had 30 minutes the last game. He's had points in the teens in the last 2 games. He hit over 2 3-pointers in both games and shot over 66% in both games. If you need a big man, there's another reason why he's being picked up a lot. The Suns play 5 games this week. So you'll get a whole lot of production out of your Suns players. So if you have multiple Suns players, you're in for a very heavy, jam-packed week. So, keeping that in mind, next week when he doesn't have all those games, and even if he does play all those games, he's very streaky. So if he goes through one of these stretches where he shoots 0% or 14% and he gets two or three of those, he could hurt you heavily in field goal percentage for the week. So he's someone I would avoid if you're trying to win field goal percentage or you feel you need to win field goal percentage. Same deal with Dario Saric. He had 30 minutes, had 23 points, shot 75%. Both had really strong games, and they have 5 games apiece this week. Similar feedback with him, though. He's a guy who can hurt your field goal percentage, so he'll have high games, but then he'll follow up with some games where he's shooting 33%. Multiple games in a row. So if you see here, he shot under 40% the 4 games before that. So that's a risk you have to keep in mind picking up a player like this. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, he's being picked up because of all the injuries the Pelicans are dealing with right now, including Josh Hart's injury. As you can see here, the last 2 games, he had 27 points. He had 19 points the game after that. He had 11 three-pointers combined between the last 2 games. He's probably somebody you're going to want to pick up in the short term, maybe even in the 12-team league, to see if he can continue doing it. It's unlikely that he's going to score 19 or more points a game, and it doesn't look like he's a guy that's going to help you with steals and blocks all too much. But that's a really nice game that he had, so he's worthy of consideration for sure. Rodney Hood is someone else that's being picked up. After his last game, he had 16 points. The previous game, he had 25 points. In that game, he had hit 5 3-pointers. As you can see, he hasn't gotten a steal or a block in ages, and you already know how I feel about players that don't really help you with steals and blocks for the most part. And Carmelo Anthony now being on the team, his shots are going to come from somewhere, so I can see some of those coming from Rodney Hood. And he's another one that's streaky as well. For you to enjoy those really 2 good games, you had to go through a pretty rough stretch with Rodney Hood. So just keep that in mind when you're picking him up. Langston Galloway got 38 minutes and he had 32 points. He's another guy who's not going to get you steals and blocks. But when he's getting minutes, he can get buckets, he can get 3-pointers. In a maybe even a 12-team league, if you need like a 4th point guard, even maybe a 3rd point guard, I would pick him up. Ideally, I'd pick him up in a 14-team or deeper league. But if you really need a point guard, the guy just had a 32-point game. He shot 68%. He's another one that can be very streaky as well, who doesn't get you a lot of steals and blocks, even though he has had a few blocks over the last 6 games. Nicholas Batum is back, and he got 29 minutes. So that's pretty good for a guy who just came back to get 29 minutes. That means he may get more consistent minutes. He's a guy who's going to hurt your field goal percentage for sure, but he can get you rebounds and he can get you assists and he can get you a steal in the block. Pretty much this stat line personifies what you can get with him. Maybe you'll get closer to 10 points per game than 3 points per game, but I'd pick him up even in a 12-team league if you really need a shooting guard, small forward, just to see what he's able to do. He's been really effective in stretches. Even last year, towards the end of the year, he was pretty effective until injuries caught up with him. Moritz Wagner, he's being added after that 30-point explosion. He's someone I mentioned that he does a lot per minute. He produces a lot per minute. So that 30-15 game, while it's a little surprising, I was expecting it would happen at some point. The following game, he had 12 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists, 62%. He got that in 20 minutes. That's still pretty good production. Didn't get any steals or blocks that game. I don't know if people were expecting more because I see here, even though he is being added a lot, it looks like he was up there as far as top drops. We're not going to go to drops just yet, but I wanted to show you that People are upset because he didn't get 30 points again. People are irrational. That's why I always advise you guys that if there's a guy you like, wait for him to have a bad game. That right there is all the proof you need of the impatience that people have. And impatience can be a doomsday scenario for your fantasy team. Eric Pashaw had a 30-point game as well, continuing to throw egg in my face. He had 58%. Field goal, again, not a guy that's getting steals or blocks. And he can be streaky as well. A lot of these guys, that's why you're able to get them on the waiver wire, because they're streaky and just the consistency with steals and blocks isn't there. And steals and blocks are so valuable for your fantasy team. But as a guy that's power forward eligible that can get you 3-pointers, he can score, and there's a ton of opportunity for him, possibly for the entire season, with how beat up that team is right now. I would have Eric Pashaw on my team where he's available. He may be on your waiver wire just because he's not a big name. In most competitive leagues, he's probably gone. But if you have an league that you're in, chances are you can go pick him up. Is it Nemanja Bjelica? I think it is. Last game, 31 points, double-double. Man, the dude's been kicking butt. He's been kicking butt all year. He was kicking butt last year. But once Bagley is back, his minutes are probably going to be impacted. He's just a good... They beat Boston, and Boston was killing it. So he had a really good game against a really good team. Hopefully he continues getting minutes, but once Bagley is back, he's probably going to lose a ton of value. So if you have him, he's not really a guy that people pine over or really want. So it'll be difficult to trade him for much unless he has a huge explosion. But try to package him with something else. But I would definitely sell high because Bagley's going to affect him. Norman Powell had 26 points and hit 6 3-pointers. Had a steal, only 1 assist. He's very streaky as well. Just before that 26-point game, he had a 2-point game in 27 minutes where he shot 0%. I'm going to have to see more consistency from him. In a deeper format, sure, I'd pick him up. But in the 12-team league, I'm not picking him up yet. Unless I'm really desperate for a win. And the injury-ridden Pelicans have been giving a lot more minutes to J.J. Redick. This game, he had 6 3-pointers, 26 points. It may be time to pick him up, especially if you need 3-pointers. If you want to strengthen your 3-pointers and maybe your points per game, while his field goal has been streaky this year, but if he gets hot, normally he's been pretty efficient. If you're banking on that efficiency returning, he's somebody you could pick up who hopefully doesn't hurt your field goal percentage and can still help you with threes. But just like all the other guys I've been mentioning, they don't get you steals or blocks. This guy's being picked up. He's probable to play today. So pick him up. If he's in your league and he was dropped, pick him up. This is the time to pick him up. He's been killing it. There's a huge need for the minutes right there. They've had a ton of injuries they've been dealing with, including Eric Gordon. So Daniel House Jr. being probable, this is the time to pick him up. He's been having a great season. Before the injury, as you can see here, he was hitting 3-pointers almost every game, scoring in the teens. He was getting steals. This game, he got 6 steals. He was getting blocks. In this game, he got 3 blocks. So he was showing you that 3 and D while really having a decent field goal percentage in a lot of these games. Oh, look, another scorer who hits occasional threes, is streaky from field goal, and doesn't get steals or blocks. That's why I don't have him on any of my teams. He can get hot and have 23 points, and then he'll follow that up with a couple of bad games. He's way too inconsistent. I don't want him. Even in a deeper format, I haven't looked for him. Jackson Hayes had a double-double. Derek Favors is dealing with back issues right now. It's unknown if he'll be back within the next few games. So his value is tied to however soon Derek Favors is able to come back. But still, 2 games in a row, he got minutes. He got 5 blocks between the 2 games. He's someone to keep an eye on, especially if Derek Favors ends up getting a long-term injury. He may even get more minutes than Jaleel Okafor. Frank Ntilikina got 36 minutes. The 2 things that are somewhat appealing to me here are the assist numbers. He's getting 3 or more assists most games. And the steals. He's doing similar things to Chris Dunn, except for right now, until Elfrid Payton is back, he's getting the minutes. So there's a few leagues where I picked up Elfrid Payton and put him in the IR, and then I have Frank Ntilikina picked up. If Elfrid Payton comes back and does well and gets that starting role and Frank loses value, then I just drop Frank. And if Frank continues to hold that value, then I hold on to him. And if neither one does, then I drop both. But that's just a strategy I've been using. If you want the steals, if you're desperate for a point guard, which you may be dealing with some injuries, or you just want to be stronger in steals, he's a guy who can blow up and suddenly get you 5 or 6 steals in a game. He hasn't done it yet this season, but he can. Markelle Fultz had an amazing game, shot 80%, hit all of his free throws, hit 2 3-pointers, made 19 points. He had a steal. He's been getting a lot of steals this season. I told you guys he was starting to build up his confidence. The proof is right here. There's still time for you to jump on the Markelle Fultz bandwagon. Last year, I thought might be the year that he busted out, but it's starting to happen right now. The Magic are doing perfectly, rolling the red carpet out for him, boosting his confidence. He's feeling confident. He's doing better. I think he'll continue to do better. If you have D'Angelo Russell, Kai Bowman is somebody that you want to pick up. Last game, he had 28 minutes, had 19 points, hit 3 3-pointers. He's had a steal the last few games, so that may be something he's able to help you with. And he has low turnovers so far. His value's tied to D'Angelo Russell, so he's a good handcuff for D'Angelo Russell for now. Once D'Angelo Russell's back, if he loses value, then you drop him. All right, so I'll be the first to admit I'm not sure who Cameron Johnson is. But the last 3 games, he's had 20 or more minutes. He scored in the teens. He's hit 3 3-pointers all 3 games. No steals, not many blocks. I don't really see a need to rush to pick him up, especially when he shot 37% and 33% the game before that. I'm not that excited by what I'm seeing there. Then Malik Monk shot 38%. He got 26 minutes. He's had 12 or more points the last 4 games. So he's being consistent for the first time in a while. I would probably start considering him. Evan Fournier has had 2 strong games in a row. He's someone that I suggested you picked up when Gordon Hayward got injured. And this is why. Very similar production when he gets hot. According to Yahoo, he's ranking at 57 right now. There's nothing to scoff at here. He's gotten steals the last few games, so that's something you shouldn't expect from him consistently. Dillon Brooks, after having 3 strong games in a row, followed that up with 18 minutes, 4 points, and nothing else, shot 0%. And that's why I don't have Dillon Brooks on any of my teams. Willie Cauley-Stein got 25 minutes. Though 9 points, 4 rebounds is boring, he got 3 steals, a block. He's a center that can get you over a steal a game. He can get you over a block a game. He can get you over 50% shooting. And he's not killing you from free throw percentage at all. He's actually doing really well from free throw percentage this season. Occasionally he'll get a double-double, a low end like 12 point, 10 rebound double-double. He has a ton of opportunity right now with this Warriors team. They probably want to develop him, see if he's part of their long-term future. So chances are he's going to have a career year. That's what I'm predicting for him. He was dealing with that foot injury. He's still getting up to speed. Once he's in mid-season form, I expect big things from him. Chris Dunn only got 16 minutes his last game. He did get 2 steals, but the minutes are too low for my liking. Even if he's getting all those steals, I just need more minutes. Now on to Kendrick Nunn. He had 22 points this game, shot 52%. I know a lot of people dropped him when he was having this cold streak, but after these 3 games, he's a hot commodity again. That's why I held on to him, the teams where I had him. I hope that you were able to pick him up. Glenn Robinson III shot 46%, had 14 points, 6 rebounds. He's another person on that Warriors team that's going to have a ton of opportunity. He was a starter even before all the injuries, so chances are they have faith in him, and you can tell that's true by the amount of minutes he's been getting. So he's probably should be picked up in more leagues than he's been picked up in. Joe Harris is somebody I was able to pick up off the waiver wire in Barack Lesnar Hoops League. This was a really good game from him. Now, he probably only did this well because Kyrie Irving was dealing with an injury. But still, even with Kyrie injured or not injured, he's a player that I think is going to be better than he's been. This is a great start. I think he can keep this going. He's another guy that's not going to get you a ton of steals or blocks, but I really like his game. I believe he won the 3-point shootout last year. He's that good. All right, so before we finish up, it's been a long video. I just wanted to discuss some of the drops so we can see why they're being dropped. And Alex Len, after he had this really strong game, 5 points, 3 points, that's why I don't have Alex Len on any of my teams. He's been this inconsistent his entire career, and I can expect that to continue. I expected more from Chris. It's not really his fault. The minutes have not been there. So since the minutes haven't been there, I've been moving on. It was expected he would get more shots. He would get more minutes with the injury to Serge Ibaka, but that has not been the case so far. Josh Hart is being dropped because he's injured. But make sure he wasn't dropped in your league. If he was, pick him up, put him in the IR. With all the injuries they've been dealing with, this doesn't look like it's going to be a long-term thing. Once he's back, the way he's been producing, I would want him on my team. So I would definitely put him in my IR if I have a slot available. Kem Williams is being dropped. He's been struggling with the scoring. He did have 10 rebounds and 4 assists his last game, and he did get a block. The minutes are there, though. That's what I like to see. And as I've been mentioning with these Pelicans, with all the injuries they've been dealing with, the opportunity's just there. Until they get some healthy bodies back, I would take a shot on this guy, maybe even in 12-team leagues as your 13th player. Corey Joseph is being dropped. I wasn't big on him to begin with, so if you have him, I would probably move on. Jay Crowder's being dropped, even though his last game, he did pretty well. That's a pretty good game from him. 2 3-pointers, a steal, and a block. I might recommend picking him up at this point. He's been getting minutes, over 25 minutes every game consistently. He's been getting you steals. He's been getting you 3-pointers. So if he was dropped in your league and you're willing to stomach the low field goal percentage hit, then I would pick him up. Robert Williams is somebody that's being dropped because the minutes just have not been there and he's been dealing with some injuries. There's a ton of upside. Keep an eye on him all season. He may have value later on this season, but for right now, I would probably drop him and pick somebody else up. Goga only got 12 minutes. Miles Turner is back, so I don't expect him to do a whole lot. Anthony Simons, he got 17 minutes his last game, and now they have Carmelo Anthony. Carmelo Anthony now being with the team is probably going to take shots away from him, which is going to really impact his upside. So I've tempered my expectations for him. Alright guys, that was a pretty jam-packed video. It's been 35 minutes. Go ahead and do me a favor if you haven't already and subscribe. You can click the bottom right hand corner of this video to do that. Real simple. Or go ahead and visit our website, www.baracklesnarhoops.com. Share this video, leave a comment. That helps us a whole lot. As far as the YouTube algorithm getting us more views, we are on our way to 1,000 subscribers. We have over 600 right now. Help me achieve that goal, and I will continue helping you build strong fantasy teams. If you have questions, ask them below. Much love, much appreciation. Thank you guys so much for listening, for watching, for being consistently here, supporting the work that I'm doing. Let me know how your team is doing. I'm very curious. Tell me how last week went, how you predict the following week to go, what things are going well, what isn't going well, what difficulties are you dealing with. All right, until next time, this is Brock Lesnar. Thank you for watching.